Maybe you're a podcaster, maybe you're a blogger, some type of content creator, and you've been interviewing people for your own blog or your own podcast. Now the tables have turned and you have to be on someone else's podcast, but you're kind of freaking out and don't know how to be a guest on someone else's podcast. I got some tips for you coming up next. Hey there, podcaster. My name is the Shannon, radio broadcaster, podcaster, and a podcast producer. And today's video is powered by Agorapulse. Now, maybe you are a podcaster, maybe you're a blogger, some type of content creator, and you've been interviewing some people up to this point for your own platform, for your own podcast. And that's how you share out the value to your own current audience. Now the tables have turned. Now you are the person that has to show up on a podcast and you have to be the guest. And believe it or not, I get this question asked every now and again from people. It was just asked to me this week. They said, how do I even become a podcast guest? What do I even say on someone else's podcast? And the answer to this might seem very logical to a lot of people, but for those of you who are unsure, trust me, this is a common question that is asked at conferences, at podcasting conferences, wherever. How do I become a great guest? So the good thing is that there are many different philosophies on this topic. You can go into YouTube and you can search out how to be a great podcast guest if you haven't already done that and found this video. And you see there's a number of people that are talking about how to become a great podcast guest. And you could take the information that they're sharing with you and apply it to your experience on someone else's podcast. But at the end of the day, we have to look at it this way. When you're asked to be on someone else's podcast, or maybe you're requesting to be on someone else's podcast, you have to remember that it's their podcast and their interview style, and it's their style of how they're going to conduct the interview. Not everyone has the same methodology of recording, of interviewing, of providing the different types of value. Not everyone has those same standards that you might have. So you have to be prepared for just about anything. There have been times when I've been asked to be on podcasts where I talk about, Facebook Live, or I talk about, podcasting, or maybe I'm just talking about my personal life. I did a podcast with my dear friend Nina Babel, and she ended up interviewing me about my relationships that I had in the past. Even though I am talking about podcasting in what I normally do, she wanted to know a different side about me. So it's all really going to depend. Sometimes you're going to get podcast hosts that feed the questions directly to you, and you have to answer those questions in the order in which they are given to you. I personally don't do this because that's a lazy content creator's way of saying, here, write the blog post for me so I don't have to do it for you. And if you're looking to create great transcripts for a podcast or for your show notes, and you're a podcaster, there's a link right here that I can go ahead and show you how to do show notes effectively. So go ahead and click that link when you're done with this video. Come back to this point in the video and click that link. But yeah, it's just at a point to where you're going to have different and varying interview styles with the people whose podcasts you're going to be on. Just understand that. Now, some things that you do need to be prepared for is you need to be prepared for delivering the value on those podcasts. If you're being asked to be on a marketing podcast, if you are someone who is really proficient in Instagram, then you should already know kind of the statistics, you should know the trends, you should know all of those things, and it shouldn't be a problem for you. The preparation is going to be where you need to provide some type of visibility, or getting the podcast listener to go to your website and see what you have to offer, whether you're offering opt-ins, whether you're offering to connect on social media sites, whether you're offering blogs. You need to be prepared with that link or any special links before you jump on any podcast, or maybe work with the host about collaborating with some type of value that can be provided to that particular audience. So it's going to vary from time to time whenever you get interviewed by different guests or by different hosts. I think the one thing that you really should just be aware of whenever you're going in and you're a guest on a podcast is that you just got to have a one-on-one conversation. You should know your stuff better than anyone else, whether you do comedy, whether you do a health, wellness, fitness, nutrition podcast, whether you are into finances, whether you are into fashion. you should already know all of that stuff. And all this is really is like going to a networking function or hanging out with some friends and having a one-on-one conversation. There's nothing to be worried about. There's nothing to be freaking out about. You just want to have a conversation. And the best part about having a conversation is that you show authenticity to that audience that you're going to be talking to. People love authenticity. They love transparency. They love that there's someone out there who can relate to them. That's what makes you a stronger podcast guest and a stronger podcast host, or maybe even a content creator, because people can trust you, know you, like you, go to your website and find out more about you and start following what you're doing. That's really all it is. You're just trying to build a relationship by being who you are, being authentic. So if you have any questions about this, go ahead and leave a comment down below, and I'll go ahead and make sure to get back to you. If you have any specific questions about maybe being a podcast guest, I'll answer them in the comments down below. And of course, if this is your first time jumping onto this channel or this video, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below, and there's a little bell that you're going to want to hit that you will want to tap on, and that will notify you when I release a brand new video about podcasting or any other type of helpful tips that I can share with you about podcasting. And over here on the right hand side, I am going to leave a video all on how to become a better podcast interviewer. In fact, if we're talking about being a great podcast guest, that video over here on the right hand side will help you out. I'll leave links down in the description below. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.